My name is Mark Reese. I'm the Director of Recruitment and Outreach at Atlanta's John Marshall Law School. I am so excited to chat with you all today, this afternoon, and thank you first and foremost for just taking the time out to learn more about this particular process. I'm going to share some information with you as it relates to our law school. UCF is one of our top feeder schools. We get a handful of students from UCF every year. Uh, and I believe, I'm not, don't quote me on this, but I believe UCF is still number one, certainly top three as far as students that ultimately end up matriculating into law school. So it makes sense. You all are graduates are from all over the country. So again, very excited to chat with you all and provide you all with some helpful tips on extracurricular activities and how that can stand out within an application. But while doing so, I also wanted to share some information with you as it relates to the law school. I was going to have a really good April Fool's joke for you. I ran it by my daughter. I didn't get one laugh. I didn't get one chuckle. So I'm going to reserve the dad joke and not pull out any April Fool jokes. I'm sure you all have heard enough so far today. So, with that said, let's start talking about John Marshall Law School. And again, I'll be fairly brief, but I just wanted to give you all an idea of the law school that I represent. And before we actually dive into that process, I have over 12 years of law school admissions experience. So, I'm only saying that to say you all are in good hands this afternoon. I feel like I have a good sense of the application process. Certainly have a good sense of extracurricular activities and how that plays a factor within a law school application. So yeah, take that as you will. I feel like I have a good knowledge on what that process looks like. So a little bit about Atlanta's John Marshall Law School. Hopefully, some of you have heard of the law school. If you have not, that's okay. That's why I'm here. We are located right in the heart of downtown Atlanta, and in a few slides, I'm going to show you all a brief law school tour. Obviously, you all are in Orlando, or most of you probably anyway, so you don't have an opportunity just to hop in the car and come to John Marshall. So wanted to show you a virtual tour, but in the meantime, with hopes that you may visit in the future. But as mentioned, we're located right in the heart of downtown Atlanta. We're in a very convenient location for externship opportunities, internship opportunities. We're within walking distance of the state bar building, the state capitol building. Some of the top law firms in the country are within walking distance. Some of the top corporations, Coca-Cola being one of them that all of you are probably familiar with how that ties into the city of Atlanta. So great location for our students, very convenient opportunity to gain opportunities outside the classroom while obviously attending in a major city. Now, as it relates to the amount of students we have, we're considered a smaller law school, small to medium-sized law school. We have just under 400 students. We typically bring in about 100, 110 full-time students each year, and that's split into two sections. That's intentional. We certainly we have an influx of applications. We're up 27% right now in applications. And nationally, that tends to be the trend this year. However, we're very intentional on keeping small class sizes. So if you take anything away from what I've said, what I'm going to say about John Marshall, just remember these couple of things. One, we pride ourselves on a practical curriculum. And in order to do so, we have to have small class sizes. We're not able to be very hands-on and practical if you're in a classroom with 300 students. And as it relates to law school, I'm sure you all attending UCF are used to the small or used to the big classrooms, but transitioning into law school, there's many advantages to being in a small classroom. So I hope you all take that into account when making your law school decision. But we're very practical, very hands-on. Our professors know our students by name. It's that kind of environment, and we feel like that makes for the best learning experience to make sure you are practice ready when you graduate. The next thing that we pride ourselves on is class diversity as it relates to students from so many different backgrounds, different ages, different demographics, different geographical locations. We feel like it makes for a great classroom. Atlanta's a big melting pot, so we feel like we mirror our enrollment mirrors the city of Atlanta very well. And then lastly is our flexibility. And I'll talk about the programs that we offer right now. Now, we offer the full-time program. That's your traditional, 3-year program, classes Monday through Friday, typically during the middle of the day in the mornings. What makes us unique is we have part-time programs, and that's quite rare in law school. There are quite a few, there are a couple dozen law schools that do have part-time programs. We are fortunate enough to be one of them, and we have a part-time day program where you're integrated with full-time students. You're just obviously taking less credit hours. And then we have a part-time evening program, and you probably guessed it, that's designed for the working professional. We actually had a graduate from UCF that enrolled into the part-time evening program last year because they wanted to work and go to law school. And you can do that successfully. We have been around since 1933, so over 90 years. And I'm referencing that because we started out as a part-time school back in the 1930s. And so we've certainly evolved then to more of a traditional setting. However, the part-time evening program is one that has not changed, and we feel like we have been proven to do it successfully. So if you wanted to work as soon as you graduate and go to law school in the evenings, you can certainly do that, and classes are 3 nights a week. Now, I guess the what's the catch for part-time programs? It takes 4 years to graduate versus your traditional three. So just take all of that into account. And then our specialization is criminal law, and we have an excellent criminal justice program. So for those of you that are interested in pursuing criminal law, whether you want to be on the prosecution side or the defense side, this is an excellent program to pursue. All of our faculty members within this program have actually practiced criminal law. So they're not just tenured professors. They've actually been in the courtrooms in critical cases. And as it relates to our faculty, they are very hands-on. Again, very interactive classroom, very practical curriculum. Now, you enter into this program after your second year, and that's intentional. That's after you've taken criminal law and criminal procedure. For one, to ensure this is something you truly want to do, but two, it better prepares you for the curriculum to come within your third year. And you're automatically input into an externship of 300 hours field work. And a lot of that has to do with the connections our director, Professor Jonathan Rapping, has in the criminal justice system. He's a MacArthur Genius Fellow. He just got inducted into the American Law Institute. So we're proud to have him as a professor, and he oversees this program. So if you're interested in criminal law, this is the one specialization that we do offer. These are first year classes for our incoming students, very similar to all other ABA accredited law schools. And by the way, we are fully ABA accredited. Um, the only one that really stands out is the academic lab, and that's more of a law school 101 course. That's a foundational course that we require for our first year students to better equip them to set them up for success throughout law school. So that we've implemented that course about 3 years ago, and that has been a game changer. Our students have been very successful in the classroom with bar prep. Right now, we're at a 92.4% ultimate bar passage rate. So all of that plays a factor with our academic lab, which ties into our resource center that I'll talk about in just a moment. I also wanted to mention scholarships. I know that's very important to each and every one of you, as it should be. We do offer merit-based scholarships, which tend to be the more significant scholarships, but we also offer need-based and service-based scholarships as well. So keep that in mind. 93% of our incoming class from fall 2024 were awarded merit-based scholarships. So not only are they available, they are very realistic to obtain. And in order to retain an unconditional scholarship, and we offer several, you would need to maintain a 2.0 or higher to remain on good academic standing. And then the conditional scholarship, you would need to retain a 2.5 or higher to retain that. We have our Dean's Fellowship Scholarship, which is an actual full tuition scholarship. So if you are interested in that, I can tell you much more about that. And that's also fairly doable I don't want to say it's easy to get. The start off requirement is a 160 or higher on the LSAT. So certainly not easy to obtain, but that is the main requirement. Now, to retain it, you just have to be on good standing. So for those of you that inquire about full tuition scholarships, that's one that we do offer along with our other merit base. And if you want to find out more about all of our scholarships, you just go to johnmarshall.edu/financing. Okay, so I told you a little bit about our programs. I'll briefly tell you about our support and our resources and our community, and then we'll get to the good stuff, right? We'll get to the extracurricular activities and how that will help you in your application journey, along with how you would stand out within that process. But at John Marshall, we have an excellent resource with our Office of Academic Achievement and Bar Success. The title says a lot, but they tie into that academic lab that I referenced a couple of slides back on how they identify and strengthen weaknesses in areas such as issue spotting, analytical reasoning, writing skills, uh, and brief case briefing. These are all very important aspects of your law school education. And this is how you essentially are rewired to think like a lawyer, read like a lawyer, write like a lawyer. And this academic lab, again, gives you that foundation to be able to move forward within your curriculum and be successful. But also view it as like an academic support center, tutoring, mentoring, advising. We feel like that's very important to set our students up for success. We wouldn't be doing our job if we don't see you walking across that stage in 3 years or 4 years if you're the part-time program. So we want to do our part as long as our students do their part and take advantage of these resources. Externships, internships. I'm sure all of you are interested in these type of opportunities once you enter law school. It's a very important part of of the law school experience. You can enter into an externship at John Marshall within as soon as you finish your first year, meaning you obtain 30 credit hours. And then you're required to actually have a certain amount of externship and pro bono work. And this kind of the graph that you see equates to the amount of hours worked per week and how you obtain those 6 credit hours that are required with the ABA. Here are some of our approved placements. We have over 1,000. Our Office of Career Services and Professional Development do an amazing job of building relationships, our alumni network for our opportunities. But I would be remiss in not referencing Atlanta, right? It's a major city. It's arguably the major city in the Southeast, and there are many opportunities to take advantage of. So when individuals ask, hey, do I have to go to law school where I practice? No, you certainly don't, but you should go to law school where you have an abundance of opportunities, right? And there are things that you can do while you are in law school. You don't have to wait until the summer. You can do an externship while you are in law school and go to class in the morning, do your externship for a couple of hours, and go to class in the afternoon. There are certain law schools that have that convenience, and we are one of them. So here are just several. We have some externship or intensive externships. We have clinical programs. These tend to change on a semester basis. This is what we currently have. So if you all are interested in clinical programs, just getting more of that hands-on experience while you're in law school, you can certainly do just that. Student organizations, and we're going to talk about this in the extracurricular activity segment, but here are some that are offered at John Marshall, along with many others. But it's important to get involved in student organization for networking opportunities, building relationships within your community. Believe it or not, this next phase, right, when you go into law school, your classmates are going to be your work colleagues. You may have your own firm one day and you may need a real estate attorney or you may need a family law attorney for whatever reason. It could be for one of your clients, family, friends, and building these relationships are going to be crucial for your career, not just your law school experience. So take advantage of them. There are some great opportunities, whether it's in a specific area of law that you're interested in, like our Sports and Entertainment Law Society, Corporate and Business Law Society, Criminal Law Society, etc. And then those that may cater to you more specifically. And we certainly want you to take advantage of what you have an interest in, but also what you don't have an interest in, right? So you can explore to confirm that you may not be interested in it, or you believe it or not, you may have a great interest in something by just giving it a try, right? So just take that into account, keep an open mind once you do attend law school to take advantage of those opportunities that come your way. And then our classroom environment. I touched on this briefly, but our professors are really what our students love most about the law school. And it's their approach, it's their experience. All of our professors have practice. There are many law schools across the country, and all of their professors have not practiced. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's not to take away that they're not knowledgeable in specific areas because they certainly are. However, there's something to be said about those that have actually done it and able to teach that in a classroom. And that's what John Marshall prides themselves on. All of our professors have actually practiced. They've actually put what they've learned into courtrooms and into the government sector and being able to apply it and teach it to our students. We feel like certainly a valuable piece and the core of what our community is all about. All right. So briefly, this is a 4-minute tour, and then we're going to get to probably why you logged in, right? How to improve your application, how to make sure your extracurricular activities stand out. So if you all just take a few minutes to watch this virtual tour, we'll move on to the topic at hand. Okay. So thank you all for watching that. Should you, and I wanted to restate this. We would love to have you on campus. If you feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my contact information at the end of the slides, but hopefully that gave you a good sense of what our law school looks like, obviously located right in the heart of downtown Atlanta. Now, as before we close out of the John Marshall segment, lsac.org is our preferred method of applying. If you're interested, for those seniors, our deadlines is July 23rd, so the June LSAT could be implemented within your application. For those that are interested in next year, fall 26, applications will go live September 1st, 2025. All right. Okay, so let's get to it. Extracurricular activities and how to stand out. So, extracurricular activities play a really big role in the application process, but in ways that you may not initially see on the surface. So, we're going to talk about that. Again, ways you can really stand out within your application to give yourself the best opportunity to get that acceptance letter, right? Because you all are going to have plenty of options. All admissions representatives encourage you to apply to more than one law school, right? But I know at the end of the day, you all want that acceptance letter, regardless if you choose the law school or not. So, my role today is to not only tell you what we look for as far as an admissions office is concerned, but ways that really stand out amongst the thousands of applications that admissions representatives receive on a yearly basis. All right, so let's start off by just listing some examples of extracurricular activities, things that will enhance your application. Now, give you the opportunity to really um, come with a completed body of work. I'm sure you all have heard about the LSAT, your GPA, letters of recommendation, etc. But extracurricular activities, again, play an important role on your application. And the best way I like to look at it and kind of go into the rest of this segment with this mindset. If another applicant has the same LSAT score as you and the same GPA as you, what is going to set you apart? So go into the rest of this segment or this presentation with that mindset on how you can be separated from the next applicant with the same merit as you. And here are some examples. So your student organization certainly going to play a big role in your extracurricular activities. UCF has plenty of them and we encourage you to take advantage of some of them. Some examples: moot court, mock trial, debate. These are competition teams that can really raise your competitive spirit, but also you're gaining valuable knowledge on law school and the legal sector as a whole, and really giving you that practice, right? That practical side of law at a very early stage prior to even starting law school. So those play a big role. Pre-law society club and Phi Alpha Delta, which is the National Law School fraternity, they do great work. That's just one example. None of these are required. None of the if you're not participating in one, don't see it as a disadvantage. We'll talk about that in the next slide. But these are again just examples. Student government, that can also play a big role if you're involved in SGA. Now, the Pre-Law Society Club is big for a number of reasons. You're not only are you gaining great experience as far as what's to come, but you're already starting to familiarize yourself with law school. And that's really what a pre-law society is so good at, whether it's LSAT prep, admissions panels, current student panels, alumni panels. So it's really just familiarizing yourself with what's next and already starting to get active in that particular role that you're interested in. Now, internships, externships, that again, that's that practical side of things that you can really hone in on and take advantage of. There should not really be it shouldn't be a challenge to gain internships and externships while you're in while you're at UCF. And one quick tip that is a very underrated tip is LinkedIn. If you all don't have a LinkedIn account, I strongly encourage you all to get one. and simply message an attorney. If you have interest in a specific area, look for that specific attorney in the Orlando region or wherever you may be located. They want, for one, will be flattered that you're interested in interning, volunteering, shadowing, and two, they're likely going to say yes, right? That they could use the extra help. And not only are you building those relationships early, you're getting that practical experience early as well. So that is a very underrated tool, LinkedIn, where you can really just start networking and finding opportunities by simply messaging an attorney in the area that you may be interested in, or maybe a government official if you want to go into government or public policy, whatever you have an initial interest in, I'd say start there. Research assistantships, law school is going to be a lot of writing and reading. And that's exactly what research assistants do. So you certainly want to, if you have opportunities to take advantage of that, that's a great example as well. Legal positions. Now, I wanted to hone in on legal positions. Like if you're a legal clerk or a paralegal, um, this is optional. And there's a big misconception with legal experience, even with the internships and externships that I touched on. You do not need legal experience to get into law school. It's completely optional. Your application is not looked at in a negative light if you don't have legal experience. If you have legal experience, you certainly want to hone in on that in your application, whether that's in your resume, or various other documents within your letter of recommendation or within your application that we'll talk about. But you do not need this. This is not looked at in a negative way. So if you're stressed out and say, "Hey, oh, I don't have any legal experience. I'm about to be a senior," don't worry about it. Many students enter into law school without any legal experience. As I referenced earlier, we're looking at your extracurricular activities through a different lens than you may initially realize. And I'll talk about what we look for in the next slide. So again, you do not need to break your back on gaining legal experience. It's a big misconception that you need that entering into law school. Does that help? Yes. It shows one, you've been active, you've been um, invested for a certain amount of time. Also shows you're starting to familiarize yourself with the law language, but it's not a requirement, it's not a prerequisite, and it doesn't even hurt you if you don't have it. So I wanted to get that out. Community service and volunteering, that's just great. Those things look really good in the application. You volunteering your time. Uh, Many attorneys have a soft spot for that. Many attorneys are part of an admissions committee, right? So they have a soft spot for those that are doing community service, especially those that are in undergrad, typically younger, and they already have that mindset to really do great service in the community. That those things really stand out in the application, and I'd argue that might be one of the bigger examples that stand out. Athletics. As a former college athlete, I can speak to this on a more personal level, but I know some of you are like, athletics, what in the heck does that have to do with law school? Doesn't have anything to do with law school. You're right there. However, does what does have to do with law school is work ethic, accountability, doing the work, being disciplined, dedication, competitiveness, and athletics, that has, there has a lot to do with athletics, right? So they go hand in hand, the characteristics or the traits that makes for a college athlete. It's intense. You don't like it, it's a job, right? And for those that are participating in athletics on the college level, they know what I mean by that. So those type of things are looked at, not necessarily you making baskets or scoring touchdowns, but what it took for you to get in that position and how that transitions into law school. Those are all good, positive things. All right, so let's go on to the next slide as it relates to what will make you stand out. So I talked about examples. None of those are required. Those are just giving you some suggestions on things that you can take advantage of with your within your while you're in school and within your application that could help you. Now, these are the really the things that stand out. And the reason I'm listing these is because we want your extracurricular activities to reflect this, right? Your work ethic. Law school will be challenging. It will require a lot of work, right? If it were easy, everyone would do it, right? Or everyone would at least attempt to do it. Admissions committees want to feel confident that you can do the work. Do you have a great LSAT score? Oh, that's great. You have a high GPA. Great. Can you do the work when things get rough, when things get tough, when things get overwhelming? Does your work ethic come into play? And that is something that would really stand out within your extracurricular activities. If some of those can display your or one of those can display your work ethic, right? And that's where you have an opportunity to expound within your application. Leadership as well. If you've been in a leadership role, that certainly stands out in your application. And this could be a form, when you were working. This could be within a student organization, within a competition team. Leadership roles play a big factor in law school. Students that tend to have leadership roles tend to do well in law school. They tend to take on that role and hold themselves accountable and lead, right? And whether that's leading themselves to success or leading their classmates or leading their student organization while once they're in a law school, the leadership trait is an awesome trait to have while entering into law school. And one of the things I wanted to reference as well, I'll reference this in the next slide, but leadership plays a big role. Quality over quantity. All right. This is important as well. You do not need to do a million extracurricular activities. You all simply don't have the time, and you do not need to like overcomplicate that process. If you are involved in 1 to 2 quality extracurricular activities, that's more than enough. You don't need to have 10 of them because what that shows with the committee is one, you may have not done these student organizations for a long period of time, or you've not done that extracurricular activity for a long period of time. And two, it could come off as being forced, like you're just doing this to look good in your application, not truly because you wanted to do it or you invested into it. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing if you have a lot of different extracurricular activities. Just make sure it's quality, right? You have fully invested into that particular opportunity and you've learned from it and you were able to become a better candidate because of it. And you didn't just sign on go to the pre-law society meeting, sign your name and walk out. You were actually involved and you're explaining reasons why you were involved in that particular organization or that particular extracurricular activity. So I hope that makes sense. So let that stick. Quality over quantity. You don't need a ton of extracurricular activities uh, because we're more concerned on the quality of those extracurricular activities. And time commitment, that kind of ties into the quality over quantity, right? If you're just doing a student organization for a semester, or you just did, an internship for a couple of weeks or, a month, you know, law school is a commitment and it's a time commitment. It's a full on like investing in yourself for a 3 year period. So displaying that you've had commitment with certain things like extracurricular activities is going to stand out in your application, right? So keep that in mind with your extracurricular activities. Try not to just do something just to do something. Like fully invest into it, and make sure that you're putting in your time and it's a quality organization. organization that's going to make you again a better candidate. That's the goal at the end of the day, not just to have it listed on your resume, but how did that make you a better candidate? So keep that in the back of your mind. And then the last thing is challenge. Challenge yourself, right? Student organizations are great. They're enjoyable. They're fun. They're good opportunities. But you know, to stand out. You know, try to pursue an extracurricular activity that challenges you, where you have to overcome obstacles. It's not easy. Everyone can't do that particular activity, extracurricular activity that you did, right? So try to find something that's going to challenge your mind, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, because again, that transitions into law school. So as you see something that's challenging that may not have anything to do with the area of law, the admissions committee is looking at it like, wow, this person did that. This candidate did a marathon, right? Uh, does a marathon have anything to do with law school? No, but again, being disciplined, having a strong work ethic, being determined, that you have to have that to run 26.2 miles, right? So again, things that may not directly correlate with law school certainly correlates with an admissions committee. So these are things that really could stand out in an application. In a marathon or half marathon, is one of them because one, how many applicants do you think are doing a marathon, right? And that's just one example. You all are certainly smart and can think of many other examples, but think of those that stand out that may not initially be on your mind because you're so busy tying in law with your extracurricular activities, and that's great. But all of them don't have to tie into law. It more ties into your work ethic, your leadership, the quality of what you're doing, your time commitment, and how challenging it is. All right, so I am wrapping up. I want to make sure I'm giving you all time to ask questions, but I also wanted to reference how these extracurricular activities tie into important documents within your application. Now, I want to keep it on the topic at hand. I don't want to talk about resumes, personal statements, and letters of recommendation. You all have probably joined a Tuesday session that talked just about that. So I don't want to dive into that, but I do want to let you know how that ties into extracurricular activities. Your resume, absolutely. You certainly want to input your extracurricular activities in your resume. Now, pay attention to detail as it relates to that. Do your research. The law schools that you do apply to, some of them require a resume, some don't, but all of them, to my knowledge, will at least accept a resume. So it's a great opportunity to really share what you've been involved in. Make sure, again, as I mentioned, attention to detail. Make sure you are paying attention to detail as it relates to the requirements. Some law schools only ask for a page. So don't bring in, don't submit a 3-page resume. Is that the end of the world? No, but it's showing the admissions committee is this applicant really paying attention to detail? Do they really see the requirements for this particular resume? So that's an important part. Make sure it's up to date as it relates to your resume. You know, there are you don't have to like finesse it to make it look like a legal resume. A standard resume is more than enough. You don't have to, most of you already have one. You don't have to fix it up to make it look like it will correlate with law. Again, a standard is more than enough. Just be accurate and up to date and differentiate yourself as it relates to these things. How are you going to separate yourself again from that applicant has the same LSAT and the same GPA? And I gave you a couple of those in the past slides, but that's an important role to make sure you're separating yourself within your extracurricular activities. And if you include that in your personal statement, great. Express how that has turned you into you, and make sure you're sharing how that tied into your why, right? Because your personal statement, a lot of that is your why. And if you did an extracurricular activity and that helped you become a better person or a better applicant, uh, share that. That's a perfect opportunity to do just that. And also your letters of recommendation. That brings me to my last point, cross-referencing. In admissions committee, I'm giving you all some really good inside information, but I wanted to share it with you. Admissions committee is cross-referencing or aspects of your application, right? For example, if you really express in your personal statement that you have a strong work ethic, your letters of recommendation should reflect that, right? Your letters of your recommenders should speak to your work ethic, right? So make sure it's something that you can certainly identify with, but keep in mind they are cross-referencing other aspects of your application. I'll give you another example. Let's say you worked at Starbucks while you were attending UCF, or let's say you still work at Starbucks. Doesn't have much to do with law school, right? Other than maybe the caffeine part. But an admissions committee is going to cross-reference that you worked at Starbucks during a certain time frame, and they're going to cross-reference that with your transcript to see, okay, could this applicant work and go to law or go to school successfully? Because again, you're going to have to do an externship while you're in law school. You're going to, you may work while you're in law school. Can you do that successfully, right? So they are cross-referencing, if you worked at Starbucks and maintained a 3.5 at UCF, that looks really good in your application and has nothing to do with law school. It just shows you can multitask. You have excellent time management skills. All translates into an impressive application at law school. Okay, so hopefully that helped give you a good sense of how these certain things tie into other aspects of your application. And with your letters of recommendation, hopefully, if you feel strongly enough about your extracurricular activity, that you will get a recommender from that extracurricular activity, right? So if you did an internship or an externship or community service, be a great recommendation letter, right? Of course, we would, probably want one from a professor or pre-law advisor, but if you did a research assistantship, you probably did it with a professor. We'd love to hear from that particular professor. So your extracurricular activities tie into almost all of your application. And I just wanted to kind of give you a holistic uh, visual of how in fact it does do just that. Okay, that's my time. I wanted to reserve some time for questions should you have any, but feel free to screenshot this page. That's my direct contact information. That's my email address. If you have just general questions about the law school, or if you'd like to set up a tour, you can certainly do that by just contacting us at admissions@johnmarshall.edu. Okay, that's it for me. I hope that was helpful. I will be happy to answer any questions that you all may have. Um, please don't hesitate to ask away.
And if there are no questions, feel free to either put it in the chat or chime in if you're thinking about one. And if not, Mark, why don't you go ahead and resend that email into the chat for them to save as well if they want to reach out to you personally.
I'll certainly do that, Caroline. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then I'm getting ready to go ahead and send our post-event survey now, as well as our AAP email. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us directly, and your feedback is greatly appreciated. I've also posted our link tree for further resources if you're interested and enjoyed the presentation today. But thank you all for coming, and thank you, Mark, for sharing your insights with our students. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.
You are very welcome. Thank you all for having me. Take care.